Hey everyone, welcome to my first video. This is going to be a track breakdown of my track Feather Apart. This came out not too long ago, around the start of the year. I'm pretty proud of it. It's my first original, so we're going to go straight cracking into it. First up is these plucks here. These plucks are the plucks that started the whole track. It was kind of the inspiration for the whole thing. I was just messing around with lots of different presets, laying them together, and I came up with this. I really liked it, so I kept it, and that's what kind of stemmed the whole track really. Here they are. Yeah, nice, very simple pluck, good little pattern. We'll start off with layers for it. We are so Ambicloud from Flex, Laser Harp from Flex, and then another Flex, which is white pluck. Layered those together, reverb, EQ. That's pretty much it for the processing on these plucks, and yeah, I think it came out really, really good. Yeah, I was intending for these to be a main feature of the track at first, but then as I got further along with the track, I didn't like them quite as much, so I decided to reduce the volume bit and make it sort of an ambient background track that's going on in the background, just to add a little bit more texture to the whole track. Next up we have this reverse. Essentially for this I recorded the plucks that I had at the beginning here. I reversed it and then added a lot of reverb to it, and it created this sort of shimmering type pad, which I'll show you, and I used that as the introduction to the track. And then with the volume automation, so yeah, that's the reverse pluck there. As I said, simple processing, EQ, a lot of reverb. You can see there, yeah, a lot of reverb, and that just creates a nice sort of pad. Yeah, and I thought it was a good way to introduce into the song, and this was also around the time when I still thought I'd use the plucks as a main sound, so I thought only natural to use that again as well, use the sample as many times as possible, so that's why I did that. Okay, so I then have these pads going underneath. This is multiple layers. I'll show you here. Multiple layers, mostly Labs Glass 1. We've got pads number 1 and also the lowered organ. Yeah, all together these create a really nice textured, sort of almost modulated sounding pad, which gave a nice good sort of mid sort of bass layer really. So here they are. Yeah, layered those together. Processing is basically EQ, not much to it. Removed a few of the annoying frequencies. That is all I did for the intro pads there. Another super simple layer, but adds a lot to it. The more sort of well-fitting layers you could add, the better. That way it just makes the track sound so much more interesting, and it brings the listener in, rather than if you just mash a load of sounds together, then it would sound bad. So make sure you EQ everything so it fits properly. Okay, next up is these soft piano plucks. MIDI is super simple, just a 4-note pluck really. Goes throughout the entire of the first verse and most of the second verse. I needed something to go in the foreground as I moved these plucks here to the background. So I needed something much more forward, much more easy to listen to, so you're not trying to pick it out in the mix. Gives the listener something more interesting to listen to. Processing, very simple, just an EQ. And then for the sound itself, I used grand piano from Flex with a lot of darkening to make it give it a softer tone. And here's how it sounds. So yeah, super simple. Just goes through the verses and that was all I did really for that. Next is the piano chords that I used. This is just another Flex, I believe. Yeah, Close Ground from Flex. Just another piano that I wanted to use for chords underneath or on top of these intro pads here. And I also added a volume automation to bring them in a bit better, so I'll play it with and without. Yeah, nice simple chord progression. I'm really happy with that chord progression myself. I'm not usually that great at it. I just added some reverb and an EQ just to help it sit better in the mix. And yeah, that's all I did for that piano. That goes through the first and second verses, and I've also added it at the outro, but I'll show you that later, what I did for that. Just thought I'd mention here that these strings here, I did have them included, but I thought they muddied up the mix too much, so I did mute them out of the track, and they are not in the final product. But I am not using the four chord progression of the piano. I'm just using two chords that go on for twice the length of the other chords. It was just to add a little bit more of a difference than the piano, and also from this intro pad here. And I also made the bass over here follow that pattern as well, so it just added more variation, but I did remove it in the end because it was conflicting in the mix. Next up, we've got this verse up here. This is just an e-guitar sound that I got. Where is it? There we go. Yeah, ambient e-guitar from Surge. Surge is a really good plugin, and I wanted to use it because I wanted a faster pluck than these two plucks, and something a little less variated than this pluck here. So I wanted to add it in. It's got a lot more reverb, and I've put it in mono as well. EQ'd it a bit, and here's how that sounds. With the volume. Yep, that just brings it in nicely. So that's pretty much all I did for that up there. I did include it later on in the track. I'll show you what I did for that later. But yeah, just another interesting layer I thought, and it also sounds really good. So that's why I wanted to include it in there. Okay, next up is this intro bass. This is just a mid bass that I put distortion on, and I think I did a little bit of EQing as well. So no sub here, it's just to add a little bit of low end, as I had cut it pretty much all out for all these other elements, so I needed to add something back in, and I also did bring it in with a slight volume automation here. So I'll show you that now. Yeah, super simple. Follows the bass notes of the strings there, so it adds a little bit of difference to the piano. The sound itself is just a GMS, the default sound, and then for processing I did an EQ, boost low frequencies because it didn't have really any sub, cut out some of the highs, and then I put a camel crusher on with the British Clean preset, just to give it more distortion, a little bit more harmonics and a bit of saturation, to make it more of a fuller sound, as it was not good enough for what I wanted it to do just on its own. So that's what I did for the intro bass. Okay, so next up is these chord plucks here. It's consolidated into an audio clip, so I can't show the MIDI, but it is the strings MIDI, so it follows the bass. yeah, it's got a nice metallic-y sound to it that I liked, sort of like a nice short reverb, but that came on the actual preset itself, so I can't show you the preset. Processing was just some EQs that I did. One of the EQs I used to do a low pass filter. Here's how it sounds. So yeah, nice, super simple. I did make this song when I was on my laptop, and the audio was glitching way too much, so I had to convert it to an audio clip. So sorry I can't show you the presets, but yeah, I just had to be done, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to finish the song. Probably would have crashed my laptop if I'm honest. So yeah, that's why that's in an audio clip. But yeah, nice, super simple. Add something else, and it also adds something for the build up as well, and that's why I added the low pass. Just to remove the bass frequencies whilst it's going up for the build up, for the drop. So that's what I did for the chords. Okay, so we're now on to drop elements and build up elements. So this is the lead that I used. It's a fairly simple lead, I think, but it does sound super nice. It's the sort of style lead that I was going for. So I like it. We've got this preset here. I can't tell you the presets because I did move it over from my laptop to my PC, but yeah, I've got preset from Vital. This is a preset I made myself in Citrus, and then another preset here from Vital. I love Vital for this. So yeah, it's a fairly simple lead, and in the build up I just added a low pass and also just an increasing volume. Just automated that to help with the build up, make it sound a little bit fuller, but also help to introduce you to the drop a bit better as well, as it is a really harsh lead. For processing, EQs, OTT, Kickstart and Maximus, I did that for pretty much all of them, and also the main bus that I've got here. So yeah, not too much going on with the leads, and I'll show you what I did for the build up and also the drop. Yeah, so a super simple lead. I had basically one continuous note going up in the build-up. That way it didn't introduce too much of the melody, didn't spoil too much of the melody in the drop, but it introduced the lead sound, introduced what the lead was, sort of, and it helped bring the listener into the drop. So yeah, I think that it fits really well, and it's in the sound that I was going for, so I'm really happy with it. Okay, next we've got this here, the build up. So I muted this build up, as feedback I got on the track was that the build up didn't really fit too well, and it wasn't a nice sort of standard build up that introduced the listener to the drop better. So I improved it here, but I wanted to keep part of this build up here from the sample that I used, or the loop that I used. So I wanted to keep that in there. And then for the build up, I just had one snare sample increasing in speed, and I'll show you what that sounds like now. Yeah, so that was the build up. Then I also had this little fill here just before the drop, just to help fill out that space in between. Processing, I really didn't do anything for the processing, just an EQ. So yeah, it was super simple, and it was just a good build up that I improved on from feedback that I got on the track. So that is the build up really. Then we've got these here, just some sweeps and stuff. introduces you to the build-up itself, and then we've got these sorts of effects here, and just all these different parts and elements here. Yeah, so super simple, just some nice effects, NSFX stuff to help with support the build up a bit more, and that's essentially all the build up really. It's just the lead, the chord plucks here, and also these FXs. So I've got a fill here, bass growl here, to fill in the space with this fill here in between the build up and the drop, and it's just to add something else to the track, keep the listener engaged just before the start of the drop. Didn't do anything to it, it's just a sample that I used, put a little bit of Camel Crusher on it, and added a volume automation. That is really it, super simple. So yeah, that is that bass growl. Used it once more here, and then I abandoned it for the second drop. So yeah, that's all I did for that little bass growl. I just wanted to show you quickly this bass growl here. It's different from the bit just before the drop here, just because of the volume automation, and it's a slightly different section of the audio clip I use. So this is what that sounds like. Yeah, so super simple for that. Okay, so we're now on to the drop. I'll just play the drop up until this point here, and then we can go on and break it down. Okay, so we'll start off with the kick that I used. It's a fairly simple kick. Didn't use too many layers, I don't think, for this one. Used this kick here, I used this kick here, and then I also used a top kick as well. So yeah, fairly simple kick, only 3 layers. Processing on this really just wasn't much. Had a Maximus, and that was it. Just a little bit of volume control here as well, just to help control the volume a bit more, just so I can set it more accurately. Yeah, so a nice simple kick there. Okay, next up is the snare. I used a snare crash here, just because I wanted to add a little bit more, so I added that after. That's why that's still in audio form. And then snares, I used 3 snares. So yeah, they're a bit more of a realistic live sounding snare. That's the snares that I prefer. I don't like these sort of snare clap, more electronic style snares, so that's why I went with this sort of sound snare. Yeah, super simple pattern. For processing, a little bit of reverb, and just some volume control. Used a compressor here. Not sure why I did that on that one, but I did. Yeah, some of these are questionable, but yeah, super simple snare. Alright, so moving on, we've got the calls that I used for the drop. It's just some super saws that I used, so it's nothing too crazy, but yeah, I've used a super saw from Citrus that I created myself, and then also a Vital preset that I used. So that preset was from In The Mix, so thank you to In The Mix for providing those presets for Vital, but here is how that sounds. So yeah, it's fairly CPU intensive, as you might have seen up there. So yeah, when I was producing it on my laptop, it was very difficult. But I got through it, and it plays a lot better on this PC now, so I'm super happy with that. Processing, Cable Crusher, Fresh Air, which is awesome. I'll actually show you the difference that Fresh Air makes. I love this plugin. It's especially useful for when you've EQ'd the high end out of a sound to make room for a lead, for example. But it will just lose a lot of that. It will just lose a lot of that other white noise harmonics, and this adds that back in, but more subtly, makes it sound cleaner somehow. I don't really know how to explain it without showing you, so I'll do that without first. And then with. So it really does add a lot. Makes it sound so much cleaner. I'm not sure why adding white noise makes it sound so much cleaner, but it does. So that is why I added Fresh Air. Fresh Air is really good. Cable Crusher, I just use British Clean again, the preset, because it's not too aggressive, which you don't really want for super saws. Did a bit of EQ, reverb, and then I used TDR Monotok, which is their more aggressive compressor. Adds a little bit more saturation and harmonics to a sound, and then I also used Kickstart. Kickstart I only put at 70%, so you don't want it 100%, depending on what, or it really depends on what style, but for this one I didn't want it above 70%, so I just put it at 70%. Don't want it too aggressive. And then for volume automation, I wanted to have a complete cut in volume for these gaps here, so I did a volume automation for that, just to help clean it up, make it sound a lot better. So that's why I did that. You could tell at the end of the sound it has a little bit of decay to it, so that wouldn't have sounded good, and to me the decay on this doesn't sound that good anyway, so I wanted to remove it. So that is why I needed to do that, to help it fit in the mix a bit better. Okay, so for the bass, nice and super simple. I believe it was 4 different presets. We have this Creeper Drone preset from Flex, we've got a Vital preset, we've got another Vital preset, and then we've also got this sub bass from Surge. Processing, simple. I've got Cable Crusher, Kickstart, which is set to 100%, and then we've got Cable Crusher and EQs pretty much for just all of the sounds individually. And this sounds like this. Yeah, got a nice deep low and rumble from the sub bass. It's got a sort of trumpet sound, unfortunately, from the Creeper Drone. It sounds okay, and it does fit in the mix, so I kept it in there. Adds more layers, so why not? You can't really tell that sort of trumpet sound in the final mix anyway, so yeah, no point in removing it. But yeah, it just fits super well with these saws here. Yeah, so yeah, super simple. I like it, and it just works well. So that's all I did for the drop bass. Okay, next up we've got this ARP. This ARP I added pretty much after I finished the track, and it was just too empty, the drop, so I just wanted to add something else, just to add another feature in the drop, just to make it more interesting. So yeah, I struggled to find an ARP that I liked. I eventually found this one on Vital. I can't remember what preset it is, and I can't tell you because of the annoying issue of converting it over from my laptop to my PC. So yeah, I can't tell you guys what preset I used, but this is how that sounds with and without the volume. Yeah, so I cut out the volume for that bit there, just to just so it doesn't conflict with this bass growl there, to fit the rest of the track. And then here I left the reverb on it, as it sounded super nice. So yeah, I didn't cut it out like the rest of the track here, because I wanted something in that space there. Otherwise it just would have been too stop-start volume throughout the entire track, so I wanted to have that there. So yeah, that is the ARP. Processing, super simple, reverb and EQ, which I didn't use. Okay, and then also that volume automation. Don't know why I didn't use that. Okay, yeah, some of these are questionable, but yeah, that's all I did for this drop up. Okay, so the final part of the drop really is these effects here, these FX and also drum fills. So I added this drum fill in here in this gap here. It's 2 presets. Yeah, so 2 nice and simple. They fit really well together. And I used them multiple times throughout the track, so, and especially in this second drop here. So yeah, I really like it. And then we've got the same effects really as I showed you before. Yeah, super simple. I didn't add too many and I didn't add too much variation. I just used the same over and over again, as I was still really sort of like new to producing then. So it was super simple for the FX, but I think it works well. And you need to make sure you add enough, just to help keep the track flowing. Otherwise it doesn't fit together well enough if you don't have these transitional effects. Okay, so we're now on to the second part of the track, this second verse. I just used the drop drums, but I just reduced the volume on them, so I'll show you what that sounds like now. Yeah, simple drums. It's a slightly different pattern than the drop, but it is the same sound, same samples as the drop, so not much to really explain there. I added the pluck from the beginning, the pluck that started it all again. Brought that in with the slower volume automation and made it louder than the first verse, just to bring it more forward. As if you are listening to the track for the first time, you may not have heard it in the first verse, which is understandable as it is very quiet in the final mix. Yeah, so I don't really need to show you the design for that again, but yeah, that is the plucks that I used. The verse starts off with the chords here, these chord plucks, just the same as before, but with a little bit of this low pass here. Yeah, just to bring it in a little bit better. And that goes throughout the entire verse. So that is the chord plucks. Next up, we've got basically the same as before. We've got the piano here. We've got the piano chords that I brought in with the same volume automation. Yeah, so that's super simple. Changed up the electric guitar amp to just a chord pluck. A simple, just yeah, basically a nice simple pluck here. Simple chord, and that just goes throughout. Yeah, so that's no longer an ARP, that's just a nice pluck chord. I've got the bass again. And that's pretty much it. We've got the effects and stuff, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, that's it for the second verse really. Build up for the second drop is just the same snare sample as we used before, But this time I just had it pretty much just go throughout the entire thing just solidly, and then I had a volume automation to bring that in better. So this is what I did for the build up. Yeah, so that's really simple, and then I'll show you this bit as well. I'm really happy with how the integration of this went together just before the drop, and I'll play you the start of the drop with this just before, but it fits super well. Yeah, so I'm really happy with how that went together with those two drum fills there. So that is essentially the build up, and then we've got these risers here as well. And then we've got the impacts all here. So yeah, that's it for the build up. I had the lead come in again as well, so no need to show you that. But the drop here is a little bit different, and I'll show you what I did for that. So here is the second drop and the build up. Last a little bit anyway, just so you can see what's a little bit different about it. So yeah, basically what's different is the drums are slightly changed up, and the chord pattern and the melody is also changed as well. So I'll go through each bit. So we've got this melody here, which I changed up from the first drop. It's the same sound, but it just has longer drawn out notes, and also these shorter notes. I also have less volume cutouts as well. I have just one here, which I didn't go all the way down either, just to have a little bit of that reverb in there. And then I had the full volume here. Yeah, so same sound, just a different melody. So super simple for the lead. The pads here, and the chords really, same sound as before again, only it's just a different pattern, so it kind of go better with the melody. And same with the bass here as well. Yeah, so yeah, basically it's just all the same. Just a little bit variated, and I'll show you the with the drums as well, so you can hear it with the sidechain. So yeah, you can tell the sidechain is doing its thing there. Just to prove that I didn't lie to you guys, that there is sidechain rather. Yeah, you can hear the volume ducking. So yeah. The reason why you can't hear the sidechain when I play each thing individually is because I had the sidechain in with the kick, so the trigger notes are lined up with the kick, so it's not just lined up or triggered when I play a sound. It is triggered by the kick itself. So if this is muted, you can't hear the sidechain. So that's why. Then we've got the ARP, which I didn't bring in with the volume this time. I just straight up added it. Yeah, it's super pretty ARP, and here you can hear the reverb bit on it. Yeah, so basically it's the same as the first drop, just changed up a little bit. And that's pretty much it for the entire track, and then I'll show you what I did for the last little bit and the outro. Okay, so the build up is super simple again. We've got the fills and the FXs here. and then this is the build up here. I added the same idea of just having a continuous snare roll with some volume automation, and that just goes along with the final build up. And that is essentially that sort of outro build up, really. Just exiting the drop helps transition to the final bit, which I'll show you in just a second. Okay, so just to give you a little bit of a background for this outro, the song was getting kind of long, and I didn't want it to go on forever. I didn't want to have a nice or a long outro, so I just decided to, you know what, just take the piano chords that I had and just start an outro from there and see how it goes. I put the piano chords there, and I left it at that. I just thought, actually, that sounds super good, and it's just a brilliant and perfect way to end the track. So here's how the whole thing sounds, and then I'll show you. Yeah, and then I'll show you the individual sound. So yeah, chords are super simple for the outro. It's just, in my opinion, a really beautiful way to end the track. And I'm actually super happy that I came up with that idea. Yeah, it goes super well. So that is the breakdown, really, of my track Further Apart. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe. And go and follow me over on Twitch, where I'll be making more music and I'll be doing breakdowns of new releases when they come out. So hit me up on all my social medias. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.